Hello, Katie. It's been quite a week in terms of COVID. In the time it took you to make your apple pies, cook and eat your turkey, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday, and light your Hanukkah candles, a new COVID variant, now called Omicron, reared its mutated head. Stocks sunk. The World Health Organization rated it as a variant of concern and stated it represented a very high risk globally. Japan, Israel, and Morocco have imposed bans on all foreign travelers.
I know, James. I'd been living in my post-booster bubble, sort of trying to reasonably live with COVID, and I feel I've been jolted. So I dug in, as I do, into what we know about Omicron yesterday. And that is, James, we don't know a lot yet and won't for about 2 weeks. So as Biden said yesterday, we shouldn't panic. But I have to say, there's some early worrying evidence that it transmits very quickly. And because of its 50 genetic mutations, our vaccines may be less effective. And then, there's public fatigue, I think, in many, if not most countries around the world, with COVID restrictions, and politicians are probably reluctant, certainly here in the US, and I think in the UK too, to impose mask mandates or lockdowns, even though we know they work. And in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter, very cold today in Connecticut. And so we're back indoors, which makes for easy transmission. So, James, I think it's a bit grim, really, as in many parts of the world, we're heading into the holiday season, Hanukkah, Christmas, Bodhi Day for Buddhists, the winter solstice, and of course, the new year everywhere. Times when we want to see and be with our loved ones and not over Zoom. And so I think the conditions of pandemic fatigue and the holidays are amplifying our emotional response to this new variant. So how are you feeling, James? I'm acutely aware you're in one country and Andrew, your son's in another, and you're also going to Madrid, a big city, very soon to teach.
Katie, it's a whole mixture of emotions. I think the first emotion I became aware of was I was feeling really sad that this was going on for as long as it is, and personal sadness, my own personal grief, thinking ahead about, well, what does that mean for travel in 2022? And I've been so looking forward to returning to the Fudan campus next year in China, and thinking, well, it may be another year that I don't get to return to China. I've been thinking, what does this mean for my teaching on the campus in Pamplona in a couple of months? Will I be going? Will that revert to Zoom teaching? I suppose I've had some anxiety as well about this indefinite future, and wondering, are we going into a kind of permanent change of lifestyle or way of life? I mean, I've spent most of my life on aeroplanes and traveling around the world, and I love that. And am I now going to be confined to, one place or one region or one country indefinitely? I suppose, Katie, also I became aware of these opposing emotions as well. And for a bit of time, I was feeling some relief, thinking, well, that means I don't have to do anything social over all this holiday period that maybe I don't really want to do. A real mixed bag. How about you, Katie?
Yeah, no, I really relate to the last things you were saying. I've gotten used to, as I say to my husband, to the little COVID life, and it has its upsides for an introvert like me. But, I woke up this morning and I was feeling low energy and dispirited. And is that connected to Omicron? I can't say exactly, but I've got this sinking feeling. So I think it is, here we go again. And my mind flips to, can the kids come home for Christmas? And I leap to saying no, and I get stabbed by disappointment. And that's a leap, of course. I'm unable to distinguish my reaction from reality. I mean, they've had boosters and vaccines and whatnot, so they'll probably come home. Then I tell myself we're going to have to cancel Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. I've got tickets in December. So that's disappointing because I was really looking forward to it. But then I said, well, that's a waste of money and I should have known. And that critical voice fed in my head. and I'm worried about you going to Madrid because I don't want you to get a breakthrough infection, end up in hospital. And of course, that's catastrophizing because we know people rarely, if ever, with breakthrough infections end up in hospital. And then I start thinking, oh my God, is this new variant a true killer and wipes us all out? I mean, the whole human race, did we bring it on ourselves? And I'm deliberately avoiding the news too, because I have a tendency, as we know, to become obsessed, and it's a spiral downward. And look at me, just in the space of telling you that on this video. So what do we do, James? It's a lot.
It's a lot. And the first thing is to name the emotions we feel. This helps us to know what we're feeling and is the first step to managing our reactions. I start with the primary emotion first. Am I feeling fear? Am I feeling sadness? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling surprise? I'm feeling fear that Andrew won't be with us for Christmas, and sadness, for example, around that. Once we've named those, we can move on to naming the more subtle emotions, which are mixtures of these primary emotions. I'm feeling disappointed, which is both surprise and sadness. I might be feeling pessimistic, which is sadness and anticipation. Maybe I'm a little morbid, or maybe I'm unbelieving about what's going on. Be curious and untangle that ball of emotions, naming them as you unwind each of those strands.
Got it, James. So naming our emotions begins to tame our emotions. And we also, I think, James, need to give ourselves permission to feel them and accept them. It isn't weakness. I don't have to, again, feel that voice in my head telling me not to be a crybaby. It isn't weakness. It isn't irrational. We're just human beings responding to a threat. And so we move into, flight, fight, or just collapsing. And this is entirely rational. And they're real responses. But if they take control of us, well, emotions are the great captains of our lives. So that, James, is, I think, why we want to try and find some ways to manage them, isn't it?
Absolutely. One way to help manage this catastrophizing that you're describing, Katie, is to share your emotions with someone you trust, who can help you to verbalize them and to get it out. It's sometimes easier to see what's going on with us when we talk it over. And I know that I wasn't fully in touch with my whole range of emotions until Katie and I had a conversation about them. Maybe it's time to recap, Katie. Our advice, if you're in the maelstrom of emotions caught up in responding to the threat of Omicron, is to name your feelings. Start with your primary emotions, fear, sadness, anger, anticipation, and move on from there to the more subtle. Secondly, let yourself experience these feelings. Feel your feelings with curiosity and acceptance. Accept the emotions.
Ask yourself, are you fighting, fleeing, or collapsing? It's really helpful to know your response and just see it as a threat response. And then talk with someone you trust, just as James and I have been doing with each other.
So that's it for now. We'll be coming back to you in the next video to discuss taming our emotions now that we've named them. So bye for now.
And bye from us both, and we'll see you soon.